Ladies and gentlemen, imagine waking up one morning and discovering that everything you thought you knew about the world was only half the truth. That behind the ordinary streets, the familiar faces, and the daily routines, there existed another reality, hidden but real, waiting to be seen. What would you do if life suddenly pulled you into that unknown? Would you run from it in fear? Or would you let it transform you forever? The idea of a parallel world has always fascinated human imagination because it stretches the boundaries of what we know and invites us to think beyond the visible reality. When we talk about a parallel world, we are not only exploring a strange dimension where the laws of time and space may shift, but also touching on the possibility that existence itself is layered, and what we see is only a fraction of the truth. It asks us to question whether our daily struggles, choices, and limitations are the entirety of life, or just a small surface compared to something vast and hidden. In the story, the notion of stepping into such a place reveals that another side of reality may coexist with ours, unseen yet profoundly real, and the mere possibility of it changes the way we perceive our own lives. This idea pushes the human spirit to wonder about purpose and destiny, because if there are multiple realities, then perhaps there are also multiple ways to live, to grow, and to understand ourselves. Imagining a parallel world also highlights how fragile and incomplete our knowledge of the universe truly is. What we often consider solid and final may only be a shadow of something greater. Science and philosophy have long debated dimensions and hidden universes. But beyond the intellectual curiosity, the thought itself inspires us to not cling too tightly to what appears fixed. If another world can exist beyond the veil of what we know, then the limitations we impose on ourselves may also be illusions. Fear, doubt, and rigid beliefs can lose their grip when we realize that reality itself is broader than we can comprehend. The very idea of another dimension shows us that possibility is endless, and possibility is the root of motivation. When we understand that we do not yet know everything, we open ourselves to learning, growth, and courage in the face of the unknown. A parallel world serves as a metaphor as well as a mystery. It tells us that life may be richer than what meets the eye, that every struggle or hardship we face could have a deeper meaning, and that what looks like an end may only be a doorway to another beginning. Many people live their lives as if the present situation is final and unchangeable, but the concept of a parallel reality challenges this stagnation. It says there is always more to explore, more to discover, and more to become. In this sense, it motivates us to embrace curiosity rather than fear, to remain open rather than closed, and to treat every experience as part of a larger tapestry that may extend beyond what we can currently see. When we consider the idea of a parallel world, we also begin to reflect on our choices and their significance. What if in another reality, choices unfolded differently, leading to another version of our life? This question does not need a literal answer, but it awakens responsibility in us to make the best decisions in the world we live in now. It urges us to value the time and opportunities we have, because reality, as mysterious and layered as it may be, still depends on what we do today. The hidden world reminds us that even if other dimensions exist, our present one is still meaningful, and it is here that our actions matter most. Thus, instead of taking life for granted, we are motivated to live with awareness, purpose, and courage. The idea of a parallel world also strengthens our ability to dream. Dreams themselves are like glimpses of another reality, places where the impossible becomes possible and the ordinary becomes extraordinary. Just as dreams push the boundaries of what we believe, the thought of another world awakens a similar power. It tells us that we do not have to be confined by what we see in front of us. Instead, we can imagine better versions of ourselves and work toward them. If another world is possible, then a better world within ourselves is also possible. This gives strength to those who feel trapped by their circumstances, as it symbolizes that no situation is absolute. There is always another side, another chance, another way forward. The parallel world is not only a story of mystery, it is a symbol of hope. It suggests that beyond the visible, there is more waiting to be discovered, and this belief alone can be enough to lift a person out of despair. By thinking of reality as layered, we are reminded that even when life seems heavy or unfair, unseen possibilities may be unfolding that we cannot yet grasp. This makes us resilient, patient, and hopeful. Because just as in the story, the crossing into another world brought transformation, so too can our struggles bring new growth. In the end, the parallel world is not just about science or imagination. It is about believing that life holds more than we can see, and that the unknown can be a source of strength rather than fear. The transformation of the ordinary into something extraordinary is one of the most powerful lessons drawn from the idea of the Plattner story. At the heart of this concept lies the reminder that even the most common, overlooked individuals can be swept into experiences that reshape their identity and their outlook on life. The main figure is not a hero in the traditional sense. He begins as a simple person with nothing particularly grand or noble about him. Yet, when circumstances thrust him into an encounter with another world, he becomes someone entirely different, carrying with him insights and strength that he never knew he had before. This shift demonstrates that greatness is not always born in those who seem destined for it, but in ordinary people who are suddenly faced with extraordinary challenges. It emphasizes that the capacity for transformation lives in everyone, waiting for the right moment to emerge. Life often disguises the potential of individuals under the mask of routine. Day after day, people live in the rhythm of habits, duties, and limitations, thinking of themselves as ordinary beings with ordinary roles. But within each person rests the possibility of radical change, sparked by events that awaken hidden courage and vision. The story of transformation reminds us that being ordinary is never a final definition. In fact, ordinariness is often the soil where extraordinary experiences take root. Just as the main character suddenly steps into a parallel world and emerges with a new understanding of life, so too can every human being step through the doorway of hardship, challenge, or opportunity into a version of themselves they never imagined possible. This transformation teaches us that we should never underestimate ourselves or others. The smallest actions, the quietest people, and the most overlooked circumstances can hold within them the seeds of something remarkable. The figure of Plattner does not begin as someone whom society expects greatness from. Yet when his life is disrupted, he gains insight and perspective that few can claim. His story becomes proof that even when others fail to see our worth, life has its own ways of uncovering it. Transformation rarely comes announced. It arrives through the unexpected, the unplanned, and sometimes the unwanted. Yet these moments can leave us forever changed, reminding us that greatness does not need preparation. It only requires openness and resilience. The extraordinary element of this transformation is not just the passage into another world, but the inner change that results from it. When an ordinary life is shaken by an encounter with the unknown, it forces reflection. It brings new awareness of what truly matters and makes the familiar world look different once one returns to it. The experiences gained in a different dimension or through extraordinary challenges often cannot be explained to others in simple words, but they shape the soul in ways that remain permanent. For the individual, This transformation is priceless because it creates depth of understanding, clarity of purpose, and the ability to live with meaning. What once felt mundane becomes precious, and what once seemed burdensome becomes an opportunity for growth. The transformation of the ordinary also inspires a sense of humility. It shows that the path to extraordinary understanding is not reserved for the elite or the specially gifted, but can happen to anyone at any time. It encourages us to look at every life with respect, because even the most unassuming person may carry within them the possibility of great revelation. In many ways, this idea serves as motivation for all of us, because it teaches that we do not need to wait for perfect circumstances or flawless abilities to experience transformation. We only need to live with awareness, openness to change, and courage in the face of the unknown. This concept also aligns with how challenges in our own lives transform us. When difficulties strike, we often see ourselves as helpless or small. But just as Plattner returned with a new vision, we too return from our struggles with lessons and strength that elevate us above who we once were. Our hardships are like the parallel world, unfamiliar, frightening, and often misunderstood by others, but they reshape us into stronger, wiser, and more extraordinary versions of ourselves. The transformation is not always visible on the outside, but within it is undeniable. Ultimately, the story of transformation from ordinary to extraordinary reflects a universal truth about human life. No one is fixed in place. Change is always possible, growth is always within reach, and even the most common life can touch something profound when the right moment comes. The key is to recognize that the power for transformation is already present within us, waiting for life to awaken it. The extraordinary is not separate from the ordinary, it is born from it, proving that every person carries the possibility of greatness, whether or not they realize it yet. Facing the unknown has always been one of the greatest tests of human courage. People often find comfort in what they know, in routines that give them stability, and in beliefs that seem unshakable. Yet life has a way of pushing us beyond those safe boundaries and into situations where the familiar no longer guides us. In the story of a man stepping into a parallel world, this theme becomes a powerful reminder that growth begins when we are forced to walk into unfamiliar territory. The unknown may appear frightening, but it is in that very uncertainty that transformation occurs. Without stepping into the dark, no one can discover the hidden light waiting on the other side. The unknown is not an enemy but a teacher, one that reshapes our perspective and strengthens our spirit if we have the courage to embrace it. Most people hesitate before the unknown because it threatens their sense of control. The world they understand feels manageable, even if it is filled with struggles, because at least it is predictable. But when circumstances throw them into something unfamiliar, such as an entirely new reality in the story, the first instinct is fear. This fear is natural, yet it also masks an incredible opportunity. The unknown demands that we let go of our reliance on certainty and lean instead on adaptability and faith. It strips away false securities and forces us to discover inner strength we did not realize we had. By venturing into the unfamiliar, people uncover resilience, creativity, and courage that often remain hidden during ordinary times. The journey into the unknown also reveals the limits of human perception. We believe that what we see and understand is the whole truth, but stepping into another dimension or facing something beyond comprehension makes us realize how small our knowledge truly is. This realization, instead of discouraging us, can become deeply motivating. It humbles us and awakens a thirst for learning. It shows that there is always more to discover, more to understand, and more to strive toward. The unknown becomes a vast field of possibility, not avoid the fear. In this sense, it challenges us to expand not only our outer experiences, but also our inner awareness, making us wiser and more open-minded. When someone faces the unknown, doubt often rises, both from within and from others around them. Society tends to reject what it cannot explain, and the individual who encounters something mysterious may feel isolated in their experience. Yet, this isolation is part of the journey. It forces the person to trust their own truth, even when others cannot see it. By holding on to their own conviction, they grow stronger and more independent. The courage to face the unknown without external validation is one of the greatest forms of strength a human being can develop. It is through such tests that character is forged, and through such struggles that individuals rise above the ordinary limits of their existence. There is also a lesson of acceptance hidden in the experience of facing the unknown. No one can fully control life, and the unknown will always appear in different forms. Unexpected changes, sudden challenges, new paths that we did not plan for. Resisting these only deepens fear, but accepting them allows transformation. When we meet the unknown with openness instead of resistance, it becomes less of a threat and more of a doorway. It teaches us that uncertainty does not always mean danger. Sometimes it means opportunity, sometimes it means growth, and sometimes it means a chance to discover a part of ourselves we did not know existed. The unknown is also what gives meaning to courage. Without uncertainty, there can be no bravery, because bravery only exists in the presence of fear. When a person chooses to step forward despite their fear, they demonstrate true strength. In the story of venturing into another world, this choice to face what cannot be predicted is what leads to new perspective and understanding. Similarly, in life, every time we face the unknown, whether in relationships, careers, health, or personal challenges, we are given the chance to practice courage. This courage not only shapes our experiences, but also inspires others who witness it, creating a ripple effect of strength. In the end, facing the unknown is not about eliminating fear, but about moving forward despite it. Fear will always exist when we step into something new, but if we let fear control us, we remain trapped in the small circle of what we already know. By confronting the unknown, we stretch that circle wider and expand our lives in ways we could never have predicted. Each unknown we face becomes a step toward greater growth, greater understanding, and greater fulfillment. The mystery of the unknown is what keeps life alive and full of possibility, and it is only by embracing it that we truly learn what it means to live fully. The gift of new perspective is one of the most profound outcomes of extraordinary experiences, and in the story of crossing into a parallel world, it stands as the central transformation. When someone is suddenly taken from the familiar and thrown into a reality unlike anything they have ever known, the way they view their own life inevitably changes. The familiar is no longer ordinary, but becomes something to be valued deeply, because distance from it brings clarity. This is the heart of perspective. It allows us to see with fresh eyes what we once ignored or undervalued. Just as the character returns from his journey with a deeper appreciation for the world he left behind, so too can anyone who faces disruption or challenge learn to see their life in a new and more meaningful way. Perspective is often hidden in plain sight. We go through daily routines without noticing the gift of being alive, the people around us, or the opportunities we hold. It is only when these are taken away, or when we step outside the boundaries of our normal reality, that we truly begin to see. The journey into another dimension is not just a literal event in the story. It mirrors the way hardship, change, or unexpected journeys can open our eyes in real life. New perspective is rarely comfortable, because it comes at the cost of disruption, yet it enriches us far more than comfort ever could. It changes the way we measure value, shifting our focus from what is temporary and shallow to what is lasting and meaningful. The gift of perspective also teaches humility. Standing in a world that is strange and unlike our own makes us realize how limited our understanding has been. It forces us to admit that we do not see the full picture of existence and that there is more to life than our immediate concerns. This humility is not a weakness but a source of strength because it breaks down arrogance and opens the heart to gratitude. When someone returns from such an encounter, they are often quieter, more thoughtful, and more thankful. They no longer take for granted the simple aspects of life, like relationships, safety, and the beauty of everyday moments. Perspective transforms the ordinary into extraordinary simply by changing the way it is seen. This gift also reshapes priorities. Before an encounter with something extraordinary, a person may focus on small ambitions, personal struggles, or material concerns. But after seeing another side of existence, these concerns may seem far less important. The new perspective places value not on what is shallow, but on what endures: kindness, wisdom, courage, and the impact we have on others. When one realizes that life is fragile and reality may be far more mysterious than we think, it becomes harder to waste time on trivialities. Instead, one is motivated to live with purpose and to devote energy to things that bring lasting meaning. This shift in priorities is one of the greatest gifts perspective can offer, because it prevents us from losing ourselves in the noise of life. Perspective also brings compassion. When someone experiences a reality others cannot understand, they begin to realize that everyone carries unseen struggles. Just as the character could not fully explain his journey to others, people in real life often cannot explain the depth of their challenges. This realization makes us slower to judge and quicker to extend empathy. We begin to see others not only for who they appear to be, but also for what they might be carrying silently. This compassionate vision is a direct result of perspective, and it can transform not only the individual, but the way they interact with the world around them. The gift of perspective does not erase pain or difficulty, but it redefines them. Hardships are no longer just obstacles, but become teachers. Loss becomes a reminder of love, fear becomes a pathway to courage, and uncertainty becomes an invitation to trust. This reframing does not make life easy, but it does make it meaningful. It shows that even in the darkest times, there is something to be gained if we are willing to see differently. The journey into a parallel world symbolizes this perfectly. It is not the world itself that is the gift, but the eyes it gives to the one who returns. Ultimately, the gift of new perspective allows a person to live more fully in the present. Instead of drifting through life as though tomorrow is guaranteed, perspective teaches us to cherish each moment as it comes. It reminds us that life is fragile, unpredictable, and precious. Every breath, every opportunity, and every relationship becomes more vivid when seen through the lens of someone who has glimpsed another side of reality. This is why the gift of perspective is so powerful. It does not change the world outside, but it changes the way we see, and in doing so, it changes everything. Overcoming doubt and judgment is one of the hardest, but most rewarding parts of human growth. And the story of the man who returns from a parallel world captures this struggle clearly. When he comes back with an experience that others cannot understand, he finds himself questioned, doubted, and even ridiculed. His reality clashes with the beliefs of those around him, and instead of support, he faces suspicion. This is a universal truth. Whenever someone steps beyond the boundaries of the ordinary, society often responds with disbelief. People are quick to doubt, what does not fit into their familiar framework, and judgment often replaces curiosity. For the individual who has seen more, this creates a painful tension, but it also presents the opportunity to grow stronger by standing firm in their truth. Doubt is not only something imposed by others, it often rises from within. After experiencing something extraordinary, a person may even begin to question themselves. Was it real or just imagined? Did they misunderstand? Or is their perception accurate? This inner battle is as fierce as the external criticism from society. Yet the process of overcoming it teaches resilience. To hold on to one's truth in the face of doubt is to build an inner foundation that cannot be shaken easily. The character who endured judgment returned not only with a story of another world, but also with the strength to believe in himself despite rejection. This mirrors how in real life, those who pursue dreams or share new ideas must often withstand skepticism before their vision is accepted. Judgment from others often comes from fear or ignorance. People judge what they do not understand, and they dismiss what threatens their established sense of reality. When someone speaks of another world, or when someone pursues an unconventional path in life, it unsettles the comfort of others. Instead of embracing the possibility, they often mock or reject it. For the person who experiences this, it can feel isolating. Yet, in that isolation, strength is born. By learning not to depend on the approval of others, a person discovers the power of self-belief. This is why many great thinkers, leaders, and visionaries throughout history faced criticism before their contributions were valued. Their willingness to endure judgment was part of what allowed them to leave a lasting impact. Overcoming doubt and judgment also requires courage, because it means walking alone when necessary. It is easy to follow the crowd and silence one's own experiences or dreams, but it takes bravery to stand apart. The man who returned from the parallel world could have denied what he saw to avoid ridicule, but instead, his life carried the weight of his truth. In a similar way, each person's often called to hold on to their own experiences, values, or dreams even when others cannot see their worth. This courage becomes a beacon, not only for oneself but for others who are silently fighting similar battles. By refusing to bow to doubt, one sets an example of authenticity that inspires others to trust their own paths. At the same time, overcoming doubt and judgment teaches patience. Acceptance rarely comes instantly. People may take time to see what is true, and often they must witness the results before they believe. The one who has experienced more must therefore learn to endure misunderstanding without bitterness. This patience is not weakness. It is strength in waiting, a calm confidence that truth will reveal itself in time. The man who saw another world could not force others to accept his story, but the mere fact that he lived transformed was evidence enough. Likewise, in life, actions and growth speak louder than arguments. Over time, consistency and authenticity prove stronger than any judgment. There is also a lesson of empathy hidden within this struggle. Having been judged harshly, a person learns the pain of rejection, and this can make them more compassionate toward others who face disbelief. They become slower to judge and quicker to listen, because they know what it feels like to be doubted. This creates a cycle of strength and kindness. By overcoming judgment, they not only grow personally, but also become a source of support for others. In this way, the struggle itself becomes a gift, transforming hardship into deeper humanity. In the end, the journey of overcoming doubt and judgment is about building unshakable authenticity. It is about learning to stand tall in one's truth, even when the world does not applaud. It is about realizing that belief in oneself matters more than the approval of others. The man who returned from another dimension symbolizes this strength. and his struggle mirrors the challenges many face when they step beyond the ordinary. By enduring doubt and judgment, he did not lose himself. Instead, he became stronger, wiser, and truer. And this is the lesson that inspires us. No matter how heavy the weight of doubt, or how harsh the sting of judgment, holding on to our truth is what ultimately allows us to rise. Turning mystery into motivation is one of the most powerful lessons that can be drawn from extraordinary experiences, such as the crossing into a parallel world. Mystery has always been a part of human life, surrounding us in the form of unanswered questions, unseen forces, and unpredictable turns of destiny. For many people, mystery creates fear and hesitation because the unknown feels threatening. Yet, in the story of encountering another dimension, mystery becomes more than just a strange experience. It becomes a source of inspiration. It proves that even when life reveals something unexplainable, we can choose to let it push us forward instead of holding us back. Mystery, rather than being an obstacle, becomes a spark that awakens curiosity, courage, and purpose. The presence of mystery challenges the mind to stretch beyond its comfort zone. When someone faces a reality that cannot be explained by ordinary logic, they are forced to think differently, to explore possibilities they never considered before. This act of questioning and exploring is what leads to growth. If everything in life were clear and predictable, people would stop seeking, stop learning, and stop expanding their understanding. It is precisely because of the mysteries that surround us that progress is possible. The story of the man who experienced another world shows that mystery can open the door to deeper awareness, motivating us to search for meaning and to live with greater curiosity. Mystery also teaches us to live with humility. Human beings often believe they understand the world completely, but the unknown reminds us of our limitations. Instead of discouraging us, this realization can inspire us to keep striving for more knowledge and wisdom. Accepting that we do not know everything is what keeps life exciting and purposeful. It encourages us to see each day as a journey of discovery rather than a finished story. By turning mystery into motivation, we no longer see the unknown as a wall, but as a path that invites us forward. Each unanswered question becomes an opportunity to grow, and each unexplainable experience becomes a reminder that life is richer than we can imagine. Another important aspect of mystery is how it changes the way we view challenges. Many difficulties in life feel mysterious because we cannot always see why they happen or what they will lead to. When faced with suffering, loss, or unexpected change, people often feel trapped in confusion. But if we choose to treat mystery as motivation, even painful experiences can become meaningful. They push us to search for lessons, to build resilience, and to find strength in places we never thought to look. Just as the man who returned from the parallel world could not explain every detail of what he had seen, we too may not understand every trial we face. Yet the mystery itself can become the fuel that drives us to live more deeply, with greater appreciation for the present and stronger determination for the future. Mystery also awakens creativity. When the world does not give us complete answers, the imagination rises to fill the space. Great discoveries, inventions, and works of art often come from this impulse to explore the unknown. The story of encountering another world serves as a metaphor for this creative drive, reminding us that mystery is not a barrier, but an invitation to create new ideas, new perspectives, and new possibilities. In this way, mystery motivates not only personal growth, but also collective progress, because it inspires humanity to push the boundaries of what is possible. Living with mystery also builds faith. Not necessarily religious faith, but trust in the journey of life itself. When faced with the unknown, We can choose either to shrink back in fear or to step forward with trust that the path will lead somewhere meaningful. This trust transforms how we experience uncertainty. Instead of being paralyzed by it, we are motivated to act, to grow, and to embrace the adventure of life. The man who came back from the other side did not receive full understanding, but he carried with him a sense of meaning that drove him to live differently. This is the essence of turning mystery into motivation, allowing the unanswered to inspire action rather than stagnation.
In the end,
mystery is not something to be solved completely, but something to be lived with courage and openness. It keeps life alive with wonder, reminding us that there is always more to learn and more to experience. By turning mystery into motivation, we allow the unknown to strengthen us rather than weaken us. We learn to see it not as a threat but as a gift, one that pushes us toward growth, creativity, resilience, and faith. And in that process, we discover that the very mysteries we once feared are the ones that make life meaningful and extraordinary. Imagine waking up one morning and discovering that everything you thought you knew about the world was only half the truth. That behind the ordinary streets, the familiar faces, and the daily routines, there existed another reality, hidden but real, waiting to be seen. What would you do if life suddenly pulled you into that unknown? Would you run from it in fear? Or would you let it transform you